Hi, we're back, Life Skills, and this is really kind of the heartbeat of Rogue Retreat when we get together and we talk about how do we become better people, how do we address things that might have been barriers in our lives, and it's a good way for us to get some information to you, and this is information we've had to put into our own lives and put into our own practice, so we're not just talking out of somewhere that's not true for us. It's really true, and we're talking about relationships today. I remember how I was affected a few years ago when I read a book by Alan Graham, who is the founder and director of Mobile Loaves and Fishes in Austin, Texas. And he writes, he says, homelessness is the result of a catastrophic loss of family, or basically a catastrophic loss of relationships. When we no longer have that support system and no longer have those positive relationships in our lives, everything seems to fall apart. And so as we talk about relationships today, it's really important to build those healthy relationships. Some of us have come out of families that maybe had some toxic relationships or some things that weren't as healthy as they should have been. And so now we're trying to piece together good things. In the recovery community, we talk about our support groups and we talk about our 12 steps and our 12-step study groups. And those are all part of building those healthy relationships. So I encourage you to find the positive people to be around in your life and let them build you into the person you want to be. Enjoy the rest of this life skills session.
Hi, my name's Scotty. I'm with Rogue Retreat. I deal with basically the drugs and alcohol and addictions and also recovery. So here's a little something about recovery, and this goes to pretty much everybody. I would like to start out by saying I found out a long time ago that the opposite of addiction is connectiveness. And taking that and turning it into relationships is what we're going to deal with today. That's what I want to talk to you about. And there's 3 points on recovery and relationships that I would like to make today. First point, relationships are basically, they start within. So it's the relationship that you have with yourself. Second point is the relationship you have with your higher power, whatever you choose to call your higher power. It could be God, it could be the universe, or anything like that. It's the relationship you have with them. And the third point is the relationships you have with others. And it's how to make them healthy and how to make them strong and not toxic. I like that word toxic because it goes in so much with what we're dealing with, especially today and in the world. So I would like to just present these points one by one as far as being able to put them into today's reality. So first one was relationship with yourself. Now you can't have a relationship with yourself unless you allow the relationships that you have with your higher power and with the community, which is your friends and family and that stuff. You can't have those without first knowing the relationship within yourself. Okay? Let's see. How do I put this to where I'm not trying to dumb it down, I'm trying to bring it up. When we have a relationship with ourselves, it's basically self-talk. It's basically how our heart feels in any given moment. And so, like, for instance, when I first came into recovery, it was hard to know myself and others around me with not actually having the heart space for it. They say, a lot of people say that the relationship that you have with yourself is basically comes from past traumas. It comes from your past, period. And for me, it was like the trauma and just the things that happened as I grew up created the person that I was. And if you want to change that in recovery, the best thing you can do is get people that have had some time in recovery, have had some experience in recovery, and kind of surround yourself with those people. I know for me, it was easy to get a coach and then get a sponsor, which are two different things in the grand scheme of things. They sound a lot like the same thing, but they're not. A coach is actually somebody that walks beside you and guides you through the thing. I find that sponsorship although I'm a sponsee and also I'm a sponsor, is about lineage, which gets back into relationships, right? It's the relationship that you have with that person, and it's also the relationship that you build with your coach. It's very transparent. There's some spiritual principles in the 12-step programs that are out there, and basically those principles talk about honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. Those are the three basics for most 12-step programs. And having those three things, you get to know yourself and others around you. And plus, you also get to know your higher power. I used to have a phrase where I'd sit there, I got this. And once I turn that around and say, he's got this, things changed for me. And I hope they change for you too. So, I hope I'm not scattered all over the place and you can kind of get a thing on this. So having a relationship with your higher power is the connectedness that you have every morning and every evening and throughout the day. Allowing your higher power to take over and to actually guide you through your personality traits, principles, your values, and your morals. That's where a higher power comes in, and it kind of shows you that those are all built off of love. Now, when it comes to friendships, the relationships that you have with other people, I'm a firm believer that we teach people how we want to be treated. So that means if you're treating somebody in a bad way, right, they're going to treat you in a bad way. That comes with healthy boundaries and principles. Now, with that being said, that's what recovery is about. It's about creating relationships. And in those 3 points, that's where it comes from. I heard quite a while back that it has unconditional positive regard. And that's how we want to treat people. Because if you treat somebody with unconditional positive regard, that means basically you're showing them love and respect on any given basis first time you meet them. And that creates hope for them and for you. And if you treat somebody with unconditional positive regard, it will come back to you in the same aspect. And if it doesn't, that's not the relationship you want to be in, okay? Because it's not healthy. Healthy relationships are built on respect, okay? And it's also built on proper boundaries. Unconditional positive regard basically stems from how we treat people because you don't know their traumas. You don't know their past. You don't know who they are on first meetings. For example, if you're at a grocery store and you smile, and and people can tell, even with a mask on, people can tell when you smile, and you treat somebody with respect, and you treat somebody with unconditional positive regard, what it comes back to you as they're going to be smiling back at you, and they're going to treat you with respect, and they're going to show you love and concern. Now, because I've had that happen, especially like I was saying at a grocery store. Somebody was like standing next to me and just totally off the rails talking about how, oh, they're going to be late, they need it. And I stepped aside and said, go ahead, because I have patience, I have time. I didn't have anywhere to be at that time, so I let somebody get in front of me. And then when I stepped back into line, after the person a few people back didn't realize that I had let other people go forward, and they started to come back at me saying the back of the line is back there, and I said, okay, I'll take it. And I went back there. I treated him with unconditional positive regard. I didn't know what he had going on. I didn't know if he was in a hurry. I didn't know what he had, brought him to that point of being angry with me. So I just said, no problem, go ahead. And lo and behold, not a minute later, he realized what he had done, what he had said, and he apologized to me. Because why? And it goes back to the first thing. We teach people how we want to be treated. And if I treated him with kindness and respect and a loving heart, it came back to me. It might have took a couple of minutes for him to realize what he had done or what he had said or how he had said it, but it was still, it all worked out. And he smiled at me and he said, thank you. And it just worked out really good for me. In wrapping all this up, I hope you understand what I'm trying to teach you is unconditional positive regard. If you take that into every relationship that you have, whether it be the person at the store or a person in your house or a person in your life, and you treat everybody with unconditional positive regard, what happens, it comes back to you tenfold. You know, and if it is not healthy, it will come to light immediately. So, wrapping it up, the opposite of addiction is connectedness. Okay? And when I say connectedness, I'm talking about the opposite of addiction. When we're in our addiction, we're kind of loners. We're very selfish and self-centered. And when it comes to being connected, it's like it's a giving heart. It's being able to understand everybody else in the world has had traumas such as ourselves, and we are able to just step back and let, you know, our higher power take over. You know, for me, I'm a man of faith, and being able to allow the grace that I was given to come from me to show other people grace it's very powerful for me. And that's how I can have a smile on my face, and I can create very healthy relationships. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me. We have phone numbers for you to call. We have people that you can talk to, and getting a coach and getting a sponsor and getting connected into your recovery, if that's your thing, because recovery doesn't just have to do with drugs and alcohol. It also deals with gambling. It also recovery from trauma, recovery from health issues. There's all kinds of recovery out there. And if you need help finding that path for it, you can always give us a call. Me personally, you can always call me, okay? My hours are usually 9 to 9, and that's 9 in the morning till 9 in the evening, but I take Sundays off, and those are kind of my boundaries. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you got something from this. Thank you very much.
Alright, so my name's Brian, and I came to Rogue Retreat about 13 months ago, and it's been a definite huge game changer for me as I've spent half my life incarcerated and in my addictions and everything, but since being at Rogue Retreat, they've helped me to help myself in my recovery, my housing, finding a job, being self-sustaining and everything, and I'm grateful for that. Very, very grateful for that. And I highly recommend that anybody that's out there that wants to change their life for the better, hit these folks up at Rogue Retreat, because there's some awesome people there. I'm at the Tiny Hope Village. I love it. It's safe. I mean, I can go there and not worry about my recovery being put at risk or my health and safety being put at risk. Everybody within that community kind of pulls together to make it work, which is awesome. Utilize this program. I mean, take advantage of it in a good way and not in a bad way, because I mean, these people are here to give you a hand up. You know, if you're willing to help yourself, they could help you. I'm studying to get my driver's license and learning how to drive, being able to be self-sustaining and continue on making progress once I'm out.
Hey, here we are again back at Life Skills. This week we've been talking about relationships. And while we've only talked a few minutes about that, and it's a really big subject, we're here with our peer support training group. And we've actually been talking a lot about relationships, and in particular, the kind of relationship that we need to have with our peers. And that could be for you if you're out there and you're a peer support specialist and you're working in that field, or if it's just you trying to relate to a neighbor that's really hard to deal with, or you know, just to be a good friend or a good spouse. So this training is actually a lot about relationships, and we're going to go around and talk to a couple of our trainees and see what they have to say. So here we go. This is Corbin. and he's taking our training.
Hello.
So, Corbin, what have you learned so far that will help you in your relationships going forward?
Well, good relationships are founded on respect and boundaries. This morning I was irritated with Danielle, and I utilized the working agreement and, asked her to lay off on the side talk, and I think we're still good friends.
So, you're talking about having some boundaries
Yes.
and maybe being assertive and speaking up.
Yes. It's very important to say what you feel, as long as you're not trying to hurt somebody, but it's important to grow together, and if you're not being honest, then you're not going to grow.
Excellent. Very good. Danielle, how about you?
Hi. Okay, so I think just respecting people's boundaries, respecting his opinion, his values. He's obviously different than I am, and I respect that. So doing that, also making sure that people feel seen, heard, that they matter is an important one. And then letting them know that they know them best, right? So if I'm just listening, then I'm listening to listen, to respond, not to overtalk them, interrupt them. Yeah.
I like that when you're listening to people, not waiting for them to be quiet so you can respond, but listening, really, really listening. So what did we talk about that this morning? Do you remember what that was called?
Active listening.
Active listening.
Active listening.
Yes.
Yeah. And I personally have a problem with that, and that's because of my anxieties of wondering what I'm gonna say when they're done. So that'll be something that I have to work on personally, because I'm worried about what I'm gonna say next, or if it's gonna sound right or wonky or whatever. So that is something that I'll be working on. But absolutely, I know personally that when I was getting better, I just needed someone to hear me and my story. And
Yeah.
mine's got domestic violence, drug abuse, all that, but I was not heard for 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, what I said didn't matter, what I felt didn't matter. So I just stayed loaded.
Yeah.
So just listening and being there for them is huge.
So I'd say you're not only in recovery for substance use disorders, but also in relationships.
Oh yeah.
Learning how to relate to people, how to treat people. And I like the treating people as their own best resource. We talked about that in class this morning, or actually on day 1, this is day 2. But that helps us to empower them, right? We're not telling them what to do, but we're saying, we're helping them to bring out what's in them.
Yeah, absolutely. By remembering that I'm a person and they're a person, right? With different experiences, and everybody's going to have a unique approach to how
Exactly. Wow, you guys are learning a lot. So let's go to Joyce. Joyce, what have you learned in class so far about how to treat people and how to have a healthy relationship?
What I've learned so far is, number one is you have to be open-minded and respect everybody's differences, because not everybody's the same. But that doesn't mean that we can't all get along. It's just a matter of totally respecting one another. Boundaries is really important. That's something that I've learned through therapy. I mean, if it wasn't for therapy, I've learned so much, And another thing is, if somebody upsets you, just take that minute to pause. You know what I'm saying? And that makes a big difference.
Good.
Especially when it comes to dealing with somebody who might have like a temper or something. An active listening, that is the most important thing, because when somebody comes to you, you just need to listen. Not listen to react, just listen to what they're saying. Don't interrupt them, and body language is so important as well.
Yeah, I think that being open and meeting people where they're at,
Yes.
that's really huge. It's huge in a friendship, in a marriage, in a relationship with neighbors, with, as a peer support, even as a volunteer anywhere. Like, you are always going to be dealing with people, and those relationships that you form are either going to be healthy or not healthy. And I agree, that active listening piece, that's really
Yeah.
huge.
And don't judge anybody. That's number one. Do not judge, because we do not know what they've been through.
Yeah. Great.
Everybody has their own story.
Thank you. So now we come to Claire. Hi. So talk to us a little bit about what you've learned so far in the training.
So I've learned about the spectrum of attitudes and not treating somebody as an object or a recipient, but as a resource. They're treating somebody as if they're their own best resource, and they know their own story and they know what's best for them. So listening to what they need and what they want, and then actively listening is what we really touched on today. And the thing that touched and resonated with me was taking away your biases. Everyone has biases. Everyone has prejudgments in their head, and to not let those get in the way. And you may have something that you think about, but then all of a sudden, when you're interacting with somebody, that can help change your mind, and not letting your biases show on your face.
Yeah, and I think moving forward, as you learn to deal with those biases within yourself, they show less and less because they're starting to drop away.
Yeah.
Especially as you're treating someone as their own best resource, you're looking at them as a worthy person, not as a person beneath you.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I was hearing you say.
Yes.
That's
yeah,
really important.
most definitely.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Sure appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
So there you have it. There's a little bit of advice from some of our trainees. Just because they're in training for peer support does not mean they don't have a ton of lived experience and growth that they've come through. So one other thing that I really like about being in relationship with anybody is the love languages test. I don't know if you've heard of that, but you can Google it and go online and see what your love language is. You might even know what it is. But for me, it's physical touch. So if I'm upset or I'm going through a crisis, a hug is really nice. For some folks, that's not what they want. So, being aware of those kinds of things with your children, with your spouse, or your significant other, with your coworkers, anywhere you are that you relate to people, find out and pay attention to what works for them. And that'll take you a long ways toward having really good, healthy relationships. And then one final thought is, a lot of times our codependence comes out, and I know I talk about this a bit because that's something that I struggle with, is that we can't fix other people, right? And that's what treating people as their own best resource, that's what that's about, is recognizing that I can't fix someone else, and I don't need to. It's not my job. And so it helps me to be able to relate to them on a different level without trying to fix them or change them. I get to just love them. So hope that helps. And we just wish you all the happy relationships that you can find in this world, because we all need a little extra love now and then. And it comes from many, many different places. And we just want that to be healthy for you. So as always, we love you, we care about you, and we will see you next week.